Okay, so I can start seeing people coming on. So here we are for our Facebook Live number 3. I really look forward to these Facebook Lives. It's the only time I actually do makeup and make sure my hair is a little bit okay and dress up a little bit, and the only day in the week. So one of the things I'd like to, encourage and excite parents to do is why don't you send us some suggestions on what you'd like the Facebook Lives to be about. Right now we are sort of, thinking about what you would like to hear and creating the Facebook Lives accordingly, but it'd be great to actually hear from our gorgeous parents out there that what do you want to hear while learning is not locked down. So today we're going to deal with the importance of reading, and let's talk about first why we need to understand that reading is one of the most essential skills that we can ever learn. So we all know that we're absolutely being flooded with information. In fact, the rate of information right now is exponentially increasing at ever increasing rates. There's a whopping 90% of information that has been created only in the last 2 years. Just imagine that. 90% of the information we now have in some form of written context, either online or in books, has been created only in the last 2 years. That is just an exponential rate of information overload that we've got. So let's understand that with all that information, we're still going to be starved of knowledge if we do not have a love and passion for reading. So reading as a skill is something really important for us to cultivate. So let's look at one of the reasons why kids don't enjoy reading. A lot of kids have been turned off reading because of the way it's been taught to them. For everything that we do in life, we actually needed a pull strategy. Think of everything the marketing world or anything anything does for you. It's only when it pulls you to it that you have a yearning or a wanting for it. But if you are pushed towards something, because push always creates resistance, and we want to have a pull strategy for reading, not a push strategy for reading. It's the reason why so many kids do not like reading, because we actually push reading and writing down their throats. So a really important reason for us to understand why we're not going to push reading and then later writing down the throats of our kids. So imagine this, and this is a true fact, that 42% of college graduates, once they graduate, no longer want to read a book. That's just like a huge, enormous amount of kids. And kangaroo kids are known to love reading, and I'm going to take you through the techniques of why they love reading, and hopefully teach you some of these techniques so you can use some of these techniques at home. So let's see how we can empower our children to see learning as an adventure, as a quest, and have this huge, humongous amount of thirst for learning. So firstly, why? Why do we want our children to learn to read? Well, if you study people in the world, people who are successful, and I'm not, anybody who knows me knows that I don't equate success with only a financial earning capacity that we have. I'm talking about people who find their meaning. I'm talking about people who find their purpose, their calling in some way. If you study what these people do, they are all voracious readers. Like, just take people like Oprah Winfrey or Steve Jobs or Warren Buffett. I believe I thrive as well in this world. One thing that we all have in common is this huge appetite for reading. Again, I don't define wealth with the word thriving, but some people still do. And in Warren Buffett's words, he has said these words: the more you learn, the more you earn. And which is the best way to learn? It's through reading. I actually remember going back to my college, because I've only got my B.Ed, and very often I'm talking to principals, and I'm looked up to, and I keep telling them, no, you're all way more qualified than I am. So I actually went back to Australia, and I went to my college, and I asked my professor that I think I should do my master's and my PhD now, because all the principals in our schools have got their masters and PhDs, and I don't. And he said, Lina, with the amount you read, you have done way more than your master's and your PhD. So why don't you just go on continuing to read? And you don't need to put a master's or a PhD up on your wall, and the people who are working with you respect you for what you've done anyway, so don't worry about it. So yes, I just went back to reading. Bill Gates is known to go on reading holidays. He just takes off a week or 2 weeks and takes his whole pile of books, and off he goes to the Maldives or wherever else he goes, and he reads for the entire time. A study shows that an average CEO reads a book a week, and that's about 50 books a year. That's a lot of books. So reading seems to be something that people who are healthier, happier, and who have more useful lives just naturally seem to do. And books don't only give us knowledge. Books have the ability to cut our learning curve by months, by years, by decades. Will Smith once said, he said, there have been gazillions of people that have lived before all of us. There's no new problem other than coronavirus. He wrote this before coronavirus. There is no new problem that you could have with your parents, with school, with a bully, that someone hasn't already written about in a book. Of course, he said this before the pandemic hit us, but yet apart from this one specific coronavirus problem, it embraces all other problems one is likely to face. Any problem we are likely to have, somebody is likely to have it before we're facing it. And isn't it better that we actually don't have to live our lives by trial and error? We don't, because these could absolutely prove costly to our health, our happiness, and our usefulness. But we can actually read about somebody else who's had this problem and has written about this problem and has told us how to overcome this problem, and we can have the ability to simulate this problem that others have written about, and we can simulate it in our heads. And then we can think of, okay, if we do this option, this is where it's going to take us. If we do this option, this is where it's going to take us. Reading about the challenge and experience that other people have had can give our children the tools they need to navigate their own challenges and experiences. And let's not forget, no matter how much we try to protect our kids, and I'm always telling parents, please do not protect your kids, do not overprotect your kids. It's not our role. Our role is like any other animal on this planet. It is to help make sure that our kids survive in the real world, and the real world is always fraught with problems and challenges. Somebody once said the only problem in life is if somebody says, or somebody thinks that life's not supposed to have any problems or challenges in it. Problems and challenges are part of life. But reading about these problems and challenges can give our children the tools that they need to navigate their own problems and challenges. And it can create a much shorter path to whatever goals they have. If this is for parents of kids with older kids, if your child wants to be a gamer or a game creator, it's more exciting to have him read books about people who've actually gone out and done those things, the challenges they've faced and how they've overcome those challenges. Because again, Warren Buffett, somebody we all look up to, he said people learn from mistakes, but it doesn't have to be their own mistakes. Now, if you want to know about Warren Buffett and his ideas and his challenges and his experiences that made him one of the richest men on earth, he's always in the top 5, wherever he is. Well, you used to need $20 to do that. But right now, I actually went online and I saw that I can actually download the book Think or Invest Like a Billionaire for free. It's available as a PDF for free online. So I would, if you want to be a billionaire, just go out and get the book and read it. And, just use some of the examples, ideas that he gives you, and you're on your way to becoming a billionaire. My goals today are not financial ones, so I won't go and read Warren Buffett's book. But just by virtue of looking at what I read, you can tell what my path, what my mission, what my direction in life is. I read a lot of Anthony Robbins. I read a lot of John DeMartini. These are all people who are life coaches. My books and shelves are filled with books like The Winner's Brain. In fact, I've got a copy of it here somewhere. It's all about the science of success, the neuroscience of success, and creating a failure-resistant brain. I've got a book on my shelf called The Brain That Changes Itself. And this is all about, how every thought you think can actually alter your brain structure. Another book I've got is called The Calling, and it's all about the process to help one discover one's calling, and so on and so on. So you can tell what my calling is, what my mission is, based on the books on my shelf. My calling is about wanting to help your children live happy and healthy lives. Healthy means for me physically, mentally, emotionally, and cognitively. So all the reading I do, all the reading I engage in is based on this one mission that I have. So I want your children to be happy and healthy, and I want them to seek meaning and purpose, because I believe that seeking of meaning and purpose is what actually eventually brings happy lives to us. So I want to create a wealth, meaning, balance in their lives, which means I want them to pursue the making of money by finding something that gives their life meaning. And in order to do this, they must love reading, because I can promise you they're not going to find their passion and their calling in a geography or history textbook unless they're really, really passionate about mapping or something like that. So some books I have read have changed the way I see things and how I see things for your children. There's a book that I read by a doctor called The Biology of Belief. It changed the way I view intelligence and my belief that every child has unlimited potential. It's actually made me believe that every one of our children, every one of your children actually has unlimited potential. Anthony Robbins and some of the neuroscience reading I have been doing has changed the way I see potential for achieving success. It's why you'll find so much of our curriculum not about pure content. It's not about something that the boards will actually test one day, because I know that the board exams don't prepare us for the tests and assessments that life will throw our way. You're an adult, you know that. I'm an adult, I know that. But your kids in school don't know that yet. Books have guided me on what's really important to include in our classrooms. I was reading about something that Google is doing. It's where it allows all of its employees to spend 20% of their time working in something that they're passionate or inspired by. It doesn't have to be about the role or the job in Google itself. And you know what they found? Google found that overall their employees' productivity, creativity, and innovation actually increased by them freeing up 20% of their time for their employees to engage in something that they were really deeply passionate about. This just kind of got me really excited, and I went and I ran to the instructional design team and I told them all about this. Now they read and read and read about it, and they have included it as part of our learning design from junior KG to grade 8. We've included it as something called Genius Hour, and it allows the kids freedom, absolute freedom to do something in school time, following a passion or an interest they have, either individually or as a group. And we're really excited about watching this increase their capacity to be even more productive, more creative, and more innovative than all the kids in the world. Why do I say that we include it from grade 8 to from junior KG to grade 8, and we don't do it in grade 9 and 10? Because grade 9 and 10 is actually when no real learning happens, as our kids are getting ready for their board exams, and they have no time to read anything other than textbooks. You know, and I know, everything we read in our grade 9 and 10 textbooks, I can promise you, you don't remember and I don't remember. Unless it's something that we've pursued doing further, beyond that. I used to be able to speak French when I was in high school, but I don't even remember that anymore. So where have I learned all the things that I'm doing for our kids? It's not my Australian teaching degree that taught me that. Reading did. Reading taught me that life skills and EQ, emotional quotient, will trump intellectual quotient every time. So we put this all in our curriculum. Some of the things that we put in our curriculum that will help your kids at this very time of the lockdown. In grade 4, we teach your kids about survival, and it's a social studies unit, and we teach kids through active engagement how humans react when their brains go through survival mode. A lot of our brains are going through survival mode at the moment. We teach them actually about the fight and flight and freeze response. We teach them how they can bypass this response. We teach them about the importance of adapting to change, and we look at companies like Kodak that failed to adapt to change and they died. adaptability, one of our superpower skills that we need right now, right? We teach them all these things, even though the board exams are never ever going to teach it. We know that life will demand this of them sometime. So if we know that reading, writing, listening, and speaking are the four major components of language arts, each one reinforces the other. And it's one of the highest and most important functions of the human brain. Of all animals that exist, we humans, as we know so far, are the only ones that can read, and all learning is based on our ability to read. So the first and most important thing we must do as parents and educators, we must make sure that reading is always observed as a pleasure. Remember what I always say, also, that children will learn from what they see you do, not from what they hear you say. So it's important for children to see you reading. As far as possible, if you're reading a physical book, give them a physical book. If you're reading a digital book, give them a digital book, and read side by side. If you value reading, your children are naturally going to value reading. Of course, I don't have to tell you about the obvious impact of reading stories to kids. They build vocabulary, develop creativity and imagination, and it's a well-researched fact that children who actually go on to read become great writers as well. Over and above this, children will acquire lots of knowledge through the stories, develop listening skills, build increased concentration spans. They literally, when we read to our kids, thousands of cells in our children's brains respond to this reading. The brain cells are literally turned on as we read to our kids. And our kids also develop new neural circuitry, new brain cell connections as we read to them. So reading to your child is possibly going to add more value to your child than anything else, more lifetime worth of value. So read to your kids. Don't run out there to work to leave lots of money behind for your kids. Read to your kids and let them make their own. Reading just builds so much of imagination and opens all sorts of new worlds and experiences. So a book I read has me start off everything that I do in a certain way. The book is called Simon Sinek's book, and it's called Start With Why. So it guides all the work I do. He says, and as it does so much research, if you take two groups of people, you tell one why they're doing something and the other doesn't know, and you give them a task to do, the ones you've told why they're doing something will outperform this group every single time. So I have spent the first half of this telling you why it's important that our children love to read and they learn to read. And I hope your brains are now highly engaged with the why. So now it is important to get to the how we will do all this. So we do start with the alphabet, and we do start with the sounds that every letter makes. Yeah? Important not to say A for apple. In a study that they did, and when you say A for, apparently 99.8% of our population will say A is for apple. And that's because we're just always taught A is for apple. So we're going to be more creative about that, right? We're going to start helping our kids to read by teaching them the alphabet and having them understand the sound that each alphabet makes, but that's only for the initial understanding. After that, we're very quickly going to dispense with the sound approach, as it actually slows down the reading process. We should teach our children the phonic sounds of letters, but they will only rely on this technique when they come across a new word that they have not encountered before, one that they have not created a picture memory of in their heads. And I'm going to talk to you about how to create a picture memory of words in the kids' heads. So our kids will learn the sounds of letters and learn how to use them to sound the word. But if they depend on this as their primary source of dependency on reading, it will have them be much slower readers than the ones who imprint the look of the word and read it. If we use decoding of the sound method, then your brain first processes the sound and links them to make a word and then processes it for meaning. So it is instead of direct access to a picture memory of the look of the word cat. So kids do not need to decode every single word into sounds. We want children to eventually be reading for comprehension. And the best way to do this is the faster that your kids read a group of words, the greater is the grasping power of the meaning of that string of words that forms the sentence and in the whole context of the paragraph. Let me repeat that. When kids read a group of words, that is when I'm reading through my picture memory, I'm reading that whole group of words quickly together to create a sentence and putting it in the context of the paragraph. That makes for much more of a way of reading for meaning. So the first step, we want kids, when we're reading to them, to be listening to us attentively. And how can we do that? Lots of games to do that. So one way we could do this is to imitate a sound from the story. So say you're reading a story about an animal that snores or a father that snores, or the story's got a lot of claps in it. Each time your child hears the word snore or clap, he should action that sound, right? Or snore. I don't really want to action that sound for you, but something like that. So another way you can do it is you can have a bunch of counters and say you're reading Spot Goes to School, Spot Goes to the Park, Spot Goes to the Garden, and you're reading the Spot series to your kids. You have, the game is that each time your child hears the word spot, he takes a counter and puts the counter in the bowl. At the end, you both count how many times a word was repeated in the story. Now this is hearing. The next phase has your child look and picture memory the word spot, and then your child is scouring the book and putting a counter in the bowl each time he spots the word spot. Apart from books, we can also play with print and words. So let me explain to you the reading of the word as a picture. So basically, just as your child recognizes that this is a glass and this is a pen and this is a ball, just as he recognizes the image, he recognizes the picture of the word. The glass, or if I do this to you, you're going to see the other way around, but glass, the picture of the word has a specific shape, and that shape gets imprinted in the memory just as the glass would. This is the basis of why your kids, I can promise you, they can read the word McDonald's or the word Coca-Cola way before they can actually decode the word McDonald's, Coca-Cola. They actually are able to, because they remember the picture. They remember the picture of the Coca-Cola word or the picture of McDonald's. So what is an exciting activity you can do with this? So one of the things we do in school, and you can't do it right now, but we get kids to cut paper labels from bottles and cans, and we can do matching activities. We do this in our curriculum, as I said. There's a worksheet where we ask kids to then find these labels in a supermarket and tick each one as they find it. But since we currently can't do that, you can have them cut out these and find matching labels on your shelves in your kitchen or in your fridge. You can also open a frame on your computer, and you can look, for example, for brands of tomato ketchup. Look, you've got Heinz, now find Heinz on the screen. Gradually see if you can take the word, for example, ketchup, to the bottle with the label already taken off. Then finally see if they can select the word ketchup when you say the word from a bunch of other labels. So you've got ketchup, you've got Kellogg's, cornflakes, you've got soup, you've got a whole lot of labels, and let's see if they can pick up the word ketchup and actually select this from a bunch of other labels. That's reading. Finally, see if they can say the word ketchup when shown the word with no reference to any object. That is real reading. So now, what can you do with this? If you've got a printer, you can print out the word door, cupboard, window, orange, book, bat, ball, whatever you have in your house. Well, anything around your house, and you can play sticking games with blue tack. So at the end, you take all these labels and you put the word chair on the chair, and you put the word door on the door, and you put the word bat on the bat. And then you play this game again and see, if you take those 3 words off and start with a few words and keep increasing these, and see if you say the word door, whether your child can find the word door and go and stick it with glue tack on the door. And you just keep on playing this game again and again till the child imprints the word in memory. Basically, takes a picture of the word through their eyes and imprints it in their head. Remember, the brain likes novelty, and so we should always be mixing these games up and giving our kids exactly the correct amount of challenge. Yeah. So don't take the challenge. So if you're, for example, playing this game, start off with only door and chair. Once he's mastered door and chair, add in a 3rd word, and then a 4th word, and a 5th word, till he's reading all over the house. Another thing you can do is, let your child tell you a story, and you can record it, and then you can make a rebus book for him. So that actually means you take his story and you print the words, and then you actually make little pictures. So if it's a dog, you draw a dog on top, or you cut out a print of a dog, or from a magazine, or from your printer, and you stick it above the word dog. So as he's reading the book, he'll actually be imprinting the word and the picture together, right? The dog is in the house, then you stick the picture of the dog above the word dog, and a picture of a house above the word house. Another game to play is find the word. So you scan and you print a page from a story, like Spot Goes to the Garden. You cut up the words and you ask the child to find the same words in the book. You can copy or create pictorial images of the words from the book and have your child match picture to word. So Spot, the word Spot, and where is Spot in the book? Can you please match it? So now I'll just take you through simple steps to imprint a word to memory. So follow these steps. I'm going to use the word ant as a word that I want to imprint in a child's memory. So in step 1, I will have the word ant and a picture of the word ant with 2 other word cards. So I'll have this word ant with the picture of the ant, side by side, and then I'll have 2 other word cards. It could be, say, astronaut and tiger. So one has got the same letter sound start, but it's much different in size. Alligator is very different to ant. So if you need to use that as a cue, you're going to be able to use it. And tiger just starts with a different sound altogether, so tiger. So you're going to have that together. So in step 1, you're going to ask the child to match the correct word to the other correct word. So you've got alligator, tiger, and ant. He's going to match correct word to the other correct word that also has the picture on it, right? So he's fusing, imprinting 2 things together, picture and word. If the child does it incorrectly, ask him to either look at the size of the word or the starting sound and just kind of self-correct. Like ant is a very short sounding word, and you have picked this word. This word is alligator. It's a much longer sounding word. So now step 2 removes the image of the ant, and the child is only matching the print of ant to the print of ant, other than the word tiger and alligator, right? So the child is only now matching image of word to image of word. Step 3 has the image of the ant and only 1 word ant and 1 other word, and the child is now just matching the image to the word. And step 4 is having the child read the word ant in isolation. As they gain a bank of a few words, you can link these words to form a sentence. Gradually, confidence will also build. This will lead to mastery, and this will lead to a love of reading. I'm going to just fill you in a little bit later on where you can actually get a step-by-step process, because I know when I'm speaking it out loud, I don't actually have the tools and to show you. So I will tell you how you can actually get a detailed version of how to receive this reading process. So if your child reads a word incorrectly in a book, there are a number of cues you can give your child, and these clues will teach a kid how to crack the reading code. So option 1 asks you to draw the attention to the beginning sound. So if it's the tiger says tiger instead of ant, your cueing will be this word starts with t and this one starts with a. Which one is more likely to say ant? So that's one cue you can do. Option 2 is to give a contextual clue, which is this is an insect that loves sugar. It's in the song the dash go marching one by one, hurrah, hurrah, and ask the kid to guess. Option 3 is to draw attention to an image in the book that supports the word and says, can you guess what this word is by looking at the picture? Option 4 is to look at the length of the word. As I said, if they've read alligator, yes, it starts with a, but it's a much shorter word. What could this word be? The look and say method that I'm describing promotes speed reading and reading for meaning together, right? Now, in the same way you do a word, then you move on to sentences. So any one of you out there wanting a detailed reading process guide, please write to me at founder, FOUNDER, @kkel.com. Give me the age of your child and we will send you a detailed step-by-step guide to teaching your child to read. This will give you step-by-step instructions, reading activities and games, all things that your kid can engage in. This guide is actually based on our proprietary reading program where the stories are all personally written by me, but you can apply and adapt these steps and activities and games to other storybooks as well. So please, if you want a detailed guide with pictures and everything explained, please write to us at founder@kkel.com and we will give you this in a printed format with pictures and images, which makes it very, very easy for you to follow. So what are some of the activities and games you can do now while your kids are actually at home? Some of the great things you can do is you can ask your child to read a recipe card that you've made to make fruit salad. So you begin with a number, and if you're a great drawer, you draw the image of the fruit, and you say like 2 strawberries, 1 piece of mango, whatever it is. And once your child has mastered this, you gradually replace the fruit image with the word till your child can read all the fruit words. Another exciting thing you can do is create table mats for your family, right? So you get a mat, a piece of paper, and initially you'll have the picture and name of each family member on it. And you'll have your child distribute mats for where mom sits, where dad sits, and where other family members sit based on where they usually sit. And you'll also have images where the plates and spoon and glass go with the words as well. And as your child gains mastery, you will remove the images and only keep the words, right? So another thing your child will learn from this is doing simple chores in the house, and that's a great way to increase self-esteem and development. And that's another Facebook session idea. If you'd like that, please vote for that. So another great way of doing it. So there are lots and lots of games we can play in the house, and we can go on endlessly for this. But the first thing is we want to depend on the pull strategy, which means we're going to have your kids curious about learning. We want them to be curious even before they open the storybook. So before they open the storybook, discuss the cover page and ask your child if he can make some guesses as to what the book's going to be about. Then as you're reading the book, see if you can connect anything in the book or in the images to the child's own life and experience, and I'll tell you why. Connection is a great way for kids to keep remembering and understanding what actually the story was about. When children make connections between a story and their own life, they actually start feeling empathy for the characters and become invested in the story. Think of the 5 movies you can remember, just off the top of your head. Chances are you remember them because it struck an emotional chord. You were empathizing with the characters in the story, and that's why you actually remember. It's psychological research tells us, and our own personal experience will tell us, and I'll just give you a test now, that when we are in any state of emotional pull in our brain. It could be fear, anger, joy. These are far more memorable than just ordinary experiences. So, and there's a biological basis for this, something that we'll discuss in another Facebook Live. But just imagine, I'm sure if you're young enough to have experienced 9/11, you know exactly where you were on the 9th of September when you heard about the Twin Towers. But I will ask you if you remember where you were on the 8th of September, just one day before that, and you won't. That's because one had an emotional reaction and one didn't. The same way you're likely to remember where you were when you had your first kiss. And all of your parents, I'm sure you've all had a kiss, and you remember where your first kiss was because, again, it touched on the emotional center of our brain. Another reason why when we're actually creating instructional design for your kids, we keep on seeing how we can touch the emotional center of the brain. So we will make this a basis for another Facebook Live as to how an emotional connection increases the investment our brain is likely to make in remembering that experience. Right? As I said, think of 5 movies and you will, actually remember these 5 stories because they either related to your life in some way or they struck a deep emotional chord. The first one on the top of my head is always Hotel Rwanda. And no matter how many movies I see, that movie is one that has impacted me. Another one is Blood Diamonds, again because they struck deep emotional chords. I love kids, and whenever I see a child getting hurt in some way, and these are based on real life stories, it is a deep emotional reaction I have. So we use all these strategies, and we have children understand why they're learning something, and we connect it to real life in some way, and we charge the emotional center and create novel experiences. And these are all the same things you'll do as you're teaching your kid to read. So how do we connect the two worlds, the one that the child is in and the one the character in the book is in? If you go to my Facebook last week, I showed you how to connect Ruby and her worry to the activities I asked your child to engage in. When was your worry small? When was your worry big? How did Ruby make her worry smaller? How can you make your worry smaller? So depending on what story you're reading, ask questions. What does the situation Bob is in remind you of? Why do you think Mabel thought that way? Divya is just saying, yes, Thumbelina was my favorite story because I was the shortest one. Yes, it resonated with her in some way. Thumbelina's short, and well, Divya, yeah, you're probably the shortest in our organization. So there you go. That's why it resonated so deeply with her. As your children begin to learn to read independently, encourage them to finger track words, but don't force it, obviously. Remember also that memorizing the text is the first step to independent reading. I always love telling parents a story because, parents think that kids who have memorized a story are not reading. And my mom loves telling me the story of how I could read stories verbatim when I was 2 and 3, and the whole, everyone around me was just like flabbergasted as to how could I read these stories when I was so young. And I would also not only read the stories word for word, but I would also turn the page at exactly the right time. And but if my mom opened the book in the middle and said, start reading a story from here, I couldn't. I'd say, no, I can only read the story from the start. Why? Because I'd memorized the story and I was actually reading it as I finger tracked it. But as I was doing that, I was adding more and more words to my imprinting word memory bank. And that is why I'm a speed reader today. I do most of the research for our organization and then I farm it out because I just read so quickly, and I read so quickly for meaning. So remember, with all that information out there, speed reading is going to be one of your kids' superpowers going forward. Yes, so Subia Javed says, The Pianist is my favorite movie, and yes, it is because it touched me in a way no other movie did. So there you go. We'll use this topic for another Facebook Live. All right? So if you're a parent of kangaroo kids, please use Skippy Tech. The self-read mode has a tracking feature which lights up the words as it reads them, and this helps in the imprinting or memorization of words at a greater speed process. So if you're a parent of kangaroo kids, please do use Skippy Tech. Also, the activities in Skippy Tech connect to the real world and keeps the learning active and hangs on. The other thing is that the self-read has a tracking feature which not only reads the words or lights up the words as they read, you can also slow down or hasten up the reading speed based on your child's reading needs. So it's a fabulous way of teaching your kids reading. The important thing here to do is to keep reading fun. I've used this example before. I taught my niece to read within a week. I tried to teach my nephew to read within a week, but he just wasn't interested. He wasn't at the right stage of learning, and I didn't have enough time. So I'd rather than force him to learn to learn how to read, I would rather him not be pressured by me wanting him to read, so that when he does and he is ready for reading, he embraces in the same way that I did. So if your child feels pressured or stressed to read, please understand and remember that any pressure will downshift your child's ability to read and your child's wanting to read. So please, no pressure, no stress. And keep the reading always playful and always engaging. Some kids will want to read the same book again and again and again, and some kids won't. They'll want to explore new books. Something that a suggestion I have for any parents who've got an abundance of books and in their kids' library, do not keep 5 books out at a time, because there's a concept known as the diminishing power of return. It's another neuroscience concept we'll talk about in another Facebook Live, but do not have just a flood of books available. Have 5 books and 5 books at a time, and then rotate the books so that your child's always got something novel to read. So with this, with your guidance, with your engagement and your love, and if you follow the imprinting reading process that I've asked you to do, or you actually write to us and get it, founder@kickayale.com, I promise you, with your guidance, encouragement, and love, and your engagement, your children will be highly competent readers and confident ones as well, and they will go into the world seeing reading as one of life's most wondrous and rewarding adventures. With that, I'm going to start taking questions. Looking at my Australian phone for the questions that Priyanka's posted. Krishna Chandra Bali Deb. I'm very fond of you. My child is in pre-nursery, thank you, in Kangaroo Kids, Calcutta. Ma'am, please tell me your advice about how we remove the boring everyday routine of our child during this lockdown period. Well, actually, your kids will need routine at this time. Not only kids, even you. So I would suggest that you keep a routine. Keep it slightly flexible. So if you have a time of learning, what you're learning can actually be different. But somebody's asking you what Skippy Tech means. It's a reading feature we have at Kangaroo Kids. It's based on our proprietary reading program. So we'll send you information on that. Krishna, what I'm suggesting is you keep routine. Just keep the routine of sleep times and start times sort of constant. And the only thing is, if it's reading time, what you read during that time will be different, or the activities or the games you play will be different at that time. But I promise you, kids do need routine at this time. Another parent has pre-written to us, Richa Singh. Hi ma'am, me and my son are a huge fan of your ideology and vision. Thank you so much. My son named Aryan studies in Kangaroo Kids, Jabalpur, and we have introduced books to him at an early age, as reading should be presented to a child as a gift. I agree, not as some chore or duty, and because of this he's become an avid reader. Our whole day is structured, which includes reading, fun, learning, dancing, and choice time too. We as a family follow the same routine almost every day, and we are not finding any difficulty as we are reframing the current situation nicely. I have only one question, that I keep ordering books for him every month on Amazon, and now I can't. He's not very interested in live storytelling sessions as well as online stories, as he loves books. So how do we satisfy his desire for reading more and more books? Remember, Richa, I told you that the ability to adapt is a huge superpower, and so this is your chance to actually teach your child and give him the ability to adapt. I'm going to give you a few sites that you can use for books, but he needs to know that this is a period when books are not available, and so we're going to explore a new way of reading. There's books.com, freechildrenstories.com, pbskids.org, storyweaver.org.in. These are just some free sites that you can go on and get books. If you go to YouTube, almost every great storybook has somebody reading it out loud, and you can have that as a storytelling session as well. If you want these links, write into us and we will send you these links. So now another question. Tejal Sejpal. My eldest son has appeared for his 10th standard ICSE board exams and he's a student of Billabong Thana. Request you to please guide the 10th standard regarding their remaining 4 papers and provide guidance for further aspirants in the field of science. I'll do that. That's not for today's Facebook Live, so please write to me either at founder@kkl.com or lina@kkl.com, and I'll respond to you there. Kuhu Gupta would love to see your bookshelf pics with the titles, or if you have any blog post on these book titles, please do share. Thanks in advance. Well, very soon I'll have my website up, linaashar.com, and there I will have recommended reading with pictures and with short synopsis of what each book is and why it's so important for you to read that book in relevance to your child's development in the future of the world. Krishna, all the children nowadays, most of the time engaged with YouTube and mobile, so I need some advice from you. How do we remove this engagement? Very simple rules. You have rules for the whole family around digital devices, and the only thing is you should only be using your digital devices apart from these rule times when your kids are asleep. Because your kids, as I said, they will learn from what they see you do, not what they hear you say. So that's the simplest and most useful advice I can give. Rukshana, guide us for sight words. I will do that, Rukshana. Write into us at founder@kkl.com and we'll send you the detailed learning guide. Nikita Shioparna asks, children also get confused while they read out the sight word. For example, tomorrow will be read as tomato. 3 beginning letters are the same. I've observed this kind of error often with my son. He's in senior KG. Do not stress on the error. If it's a short and a long word, use the technique I taught you earlier, but do not stress on the error. Very quickly, tomorrow will be read as tomorrow and tomato will be read as tomato. This is one of the I won't call it, this is one of the things that will happen when your kids learn to speed read. But it's better that than them breaking up the sound of the words. Vikash asks me, when you talk about the matching labels with words, please clarify at a time how many words we are supposed to make my kid practice if his age is 3.4 years. So the trick is this. The first thing we do is we only start off with one word, door. And we ask the kid to go in, and he's seen it on the door, and you ask him to go and place it on the door. Then you make it 2 words. So the thing is not how many words, the thing is to build the confidence. As the competence grows, the confidence will grow. So the thing is to just keep it slightly challenging. If you suddenly give your kids 100 words and say, go blue tack them all over the house, your kid's gonna fail. You've gone too outside his area of challenge or comfort zone to actually learn that technique. So you start off with 1 word, build it to 2, then 3, then 4, and very soon your kids will be blue tacking the whole house with the words. So there we go. Are there any other questions, Priyanka? You can post the next slot if there are any. The problem is that because I'm Facebook Live on my phone, I can't actually see a lot of your comments, questions on the phone. So Priyanka actually has to get them and she has to post them on my Australian phone. Yes, Jyoti, you can have a step-by-step guide to teaching kids. Just write to founder, FOUNDER @kkel.com, and you will actually get this. So here's the next lot of questions, and then after that we'll call it a Facebook Live end. Shrishti, any life skill books or value stories you would suggest for kindergarten kids? All books will end up being a life skill book or a value story just based on how you actually relate it to that. So if you go back to my last Facebook Live and you listen to it, it's Ruby Had a Worry, and I've actually shown you how to take that and teach that as a valuable life skill for kids not to worry. If you write into me, Shrishti, I'll send you another lot of books with some suggestions there. And Karina has just actually put up the email ID as founder@kkl.com, so please use that one. Hetal Tucker, my son did the exact same, memorized the story when he was 2 years old. That is the first step to reading. So please do not worry if your kids are memorizing. It is the best first step to learning how to read fluently and to read for meaning. Sakshi wants to know more about this power of diminishing return. Well, it's very much like this. And I'll use it for another Facebook Live, but it's the very thing we're experiencing now where crude oil is at a very low value and toilet paper is at a very high value. It's a power of diminishing return actually means that, you know, if you watch a beautiful sunset one day, the second day, the third day, fourth day, at some point it will not have as much value for you as the first time you watched it. And that's the power of diminishing return, but we'll use that for another Facebook Live. How to teach reading with meaning to my 5-year-old? Just follow the steps, Mouse Mija, Joshipura, and it'll all happen. Mayurish Shinde, can you guide us on how we work on improving kids' phonics skills? Well, you basically, then you're going to go back. I'm not a big advocate of using phonics as the primary source for teaching our kids to read because it slows down their reading, but it's basically a, ant, b, ball, k, cat. It's basically as simple as that. You know, it's teachers who love phonics are teachers who actually learn to read phonetically and therefore believe in the great power of phonics. Unless you're a very strong auditory learner, phonics is not the way to go. It's actually using the look and say method more than phonics. What is the right age to pick up speed reading? You don't. It's just a skill that just gets naturally faster and faster and faster. So you don't pick it up at any stage. It just keeps on increasing in speed as you keep on reading more. Disha Soni Iyer, hi Lina, how to help kids to learn from online classes and make their schedule? Well, basically you just sit down as a family and you make schedules for everyone. And so if your kids understand that everyone has to be useful, you're being useful by cooking, cleaning, or working from home, your child has to be useful by following the online classes, they will happen. So with that, thank you very much for being with me on my 3rd Facebook Live, and I look forward to seeing you this time, same time next week. Thank you very much. Bye-bye.